Welcome to Wellbeing Wednesdays with Harbinder Narula. Today's topic is on women's health. And I have with me someone who's been in a profession and is trained in such a way that she understands women's health issues, both from the physical perspective as well as from the mental perspective. I have with me today Anika Parashar, who's the founder of the Woman Company and has been in the role of leading women's hospitals. Welcome, Anika, to Wellbeing Wednesdays. My first question to you, Anika, is in your experience of working with women's hospitals, what are some of the issues that come into your mind when it comes to the women's health, pregnancy, including the mental health issues that they face?
So I think one of the things that I found running women's hospitals across the country was that women's health in India is limited to obstetrics to a large part, which is that we focus on the months of when she's either trying to get pregnant, which is the fertility phases, or obstetrics, which is when she is pregnant and then delivering, and then a few months after, So women almost and this was my finding, and I was working very actively towards increasing gynecology because we have fabulous gynecologists in our country, and we have issues that pertain to gynecology in a very big way, be it infections, be it cancers that are coming up, whether it's menstrual related problems or menopause related problems, PCOS, endometriosis. There's so much that requires gynecology, and then breast care, and then endocrinology. But as a gender, we are limited to those months that we deliver. So even when I started running women's hospitals, I was no longer a relevant TG because I had had my babies. So my logic was, is that the only time that I as a woman deserve healthcare? And is that the only healthcare that we're talking about for women? So we need to be able to increase these conversations. So as a larger sort of rule, I think that now hospitals are making that effort to increase their offering to women on a more regular basis. The other challenge we have is the women themselves. We don't make ourselves a priority. So for us, everybody's more important. Parents, in-laws, husband, children, siblings, aunts, uncles, friends, the dhobi, the sabzi wala, everybody is more important than us. So we are willing to look at everyone's issues, everyone's problems, deal with everything on a daily basis. The only thing we're not willing to look at is our health. So our own health is not prioritized. And because of that, we put aside preventative care. We don't go in time for our checkups. We don't make that effort to actually, take care of our health on a proactive basis.
Anika, as a woman yourself, what do you think are the key pointers that are important for 360-degree well-being of a woman?
I think first is general preventative healthcare. So doing our tests in time, making sure that once we reach a particular age, we have an understanding of our blood work, our levels of, vitamins, nutrients, sugar, iron, to understand, are there any deficiencies? Do we have to be able to, look at that? Again, as we hit our 40s, to do our regular pap smears, our mammograms. From a younger perspective, younger girls who are sexually active, stop hiding away. It's okay if you are, but get the relevant tests done. So use protection, make sure that there's contraception, make sure you're aware about what sex education is, that you're, preventing yourself from getting any kind of STDs, unwanted pregnancies, and all of that. The education for a young girl starting her period is very important. What are the changes that are going to happen in puberty? Helping parents, especially mothers, understand how to bridge that gap, for young girls. So we as women, of a particular generation, maybe had our mothers or our grandmothers or the women in our family talk to us about it. But what I talk to my daughter about now is far more proactive, and our conversations are far more open than I ever had with, with any of the, the women in my life. And that is the case across, if you look at this generation. I think the other thing that we need to do is understand the stages of a woman's life. So one is, hitting puberty, starting your period. Then is hitting that phase of starting sexual relations, and what those changes may be, and the kind of protection and the kind of support that you may require at that time. Then when you're trying for a baby, so making sure that your fertility parameters are all in check. Then, the obstetric phase. Then moving on to, when you're in your late 30s, etc., starting to monitor your levels. Then in your 40s to make sure your testing is right in terms of your pap smears, your, mammograms, making sure that you are well versed with your body. We have to know our bodies, we have to love our bodies. And throughout this entire journey, Harbinder, is the mental health aspect. So really understanding what our hormones do to us as women. We've had this age-old joke for women that, oh, you're just about to get your period, you're a little extra emotional, aggressive, moody. It could be because you're about to get your period. But do we actually give enough respect to the fact that those are actual hormones that are causing us physically, not in our heads, but physically, to feel the downs and the highs and the angers and the moods and the tears, and sometimes we can't even prevent it. Similarly, when we hit that menopause age, we're suddenly at that stage where we're like, oh, I'm feeling, hot flashes, etc. Again, made fun of it for years and decades and centuries, but the reality is it's real, and what we're going through is real. So where's the kind of support for all of those stages of life, and women, and this is not just because I'm a woman, I am biased. I am a woman and I'm a woman's woman. So I am biased, I'm calling it out. But we definitely have harder journeys than men, okay? In terms of physically, because we carry human beings and we grow human beings inside them. Their blood, their bones, their cells are being formed of our very bodies. So that's a lot of sharing that we do with our children in terms of our physical space. And then the mental and physical, emotional journeys of rearing families, managing work, the whole social aspect of, we are the pillars of family life where we manage social relationships, extended families, friendships. Very often women are managing the finances as well. The consumerism is changing, where the men made the decisions in the households, now women do. So that's a lot for us to carry, and therefore, are we doing the right kind of, are we providing the right services as a healthcare, as a healthcare industry? And as we are women, recognizing our need for support in specific areas as we move forward.
Anika, you brought up a very beautiful thing. You have kind of, in fact, preempted my question, which was that are the physical conditions related to the mental well-being? And as I see that, yes, of course, mental well-being gets affected when you are physically unwell or going through a certain situation, which is more so in the case of women because, like you said, they have their periods, then different phases of life, they have different issues that they're dabbling with, and they're also multitaskers. So, so they obviously are more affected. But since you have been associated with women hospitals, are physical conditions being treated along with mental health, working on the mental health, or are these separate? And if these are separate, why?
So yes and no. Are hospitals attempting to provide mental health departments? Very much so now. There are counseling, psychiatric, psychotherapy. All of these things are available in hospitals now. There are teams, there are doctors, teams are being hired, nurtured, and given that kind of freedom to be able to be out there. But do we provide a 360-degree service where we insist upon it, like we insist upon nutrition or physiotherapy? No, we don't. That disconnect is still there. So while mental health is definitely more prominent in India, along, in hospitals as well as private, practice, etc., but we don't do it 360-degree. So, my dream, so to say, at that point would have been to provide each of these services and mandatorily introduce you to a counselor at the beginning of it. For me, in my household, and I have 2 teenagers, and I myself, I'm a great believer in this, is that like every household has a GP, every household must have a therapist. Okay. And so you have access to it. My kids have their numbers. They can call the person up directly, and then basis whatever their need is, I will pay them for their time. But it's something that I have empowered my children to do, because I think that it's important at this stage of life that they should understand if they need to talk to somebody, they should have a safe space where they don't feel judged, and where they can have a conversation that would ease their mind and spirit.
So do you think it should actually, rather than saying that, we should make it mandatory, should it not be a part of the healthcare protocol? For example, if somebody is being treated for, say, IVF, which is a very high, mentally taxing condition for a woman, as well as for a man, but for a woman, it is like even more highly taxing. So, should a counselor service be a part of the protocol than just treat the person for the physical condition?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying by I use that word mandatorily very thoughtfully, because only when we start, see, a lot of people are not even exposed to what it means to talk to someone, or the kind of ease that comes in with sharing with a practiced professional. So it's only when we introduce these as part of the package where you have to spend 15 minutes with the counselor. Now, I worked with IVF patients myself because I started off my journey as an alternative care practitioner. So I worked with fertility clients, and part of my job was to actually sit there and listen to them and understand, where the challenges were. And you could almost identify why fertility was a challenge once you listen to these women, and once we overcame some of those hurdles, even the blocks that they had in an easier IVF or IUI journey became more seamless, And as we found, as we went on, that point, we worked very closely with, Dr. Pai's team at Bloom IVF, and they were recommending people to us all the time, patients to us all the time, because they realized that symbiotic relationship between the physical and the mental was actually bettering their success rates. So there have to be more professionals like that, as in medical professionals, that also marry the two together and recommend accordingly. It doesn't happen that often in India.
So, Anika, you had used the word bias some time back, and bias is usually an outcome of a stereotype, right? We are responding to stereotypes that exist. Now, when you look at the rural part of the country where, the economic conditions are very different from what we see in the urban India, because of the stereotypes, women are deprived of treatments. So a treatment for which you would travel to a city, the priority is that the bread earner, which is usually the man in the rural area, or is perceived to be the man in the rural area, the priority is given to them. And women are losing out on the basic health care which they should be entitled to. Do you think that this bias or this stereotype there are efforts being made to break this, or is it just a phenomena in the urban area that we find that women are given equal opportunities and equal healthcare conditions?
I mean, I think that the government is trying to, bridge this gap or reduce the gap for sure. There have been some schemes, government initiatives that have been launched, which are in the favor of women. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it to say how well that they're doing. But I know that some of these schemes, do provide a certain amount of healthcare coverage to families per year, and in fact, some families that don't have male members are given, preference, so that they are given that opportunity to avail of healthcare that they wouldn't maybe be able to afford on a, otherwise. I know that there are also some schemes, like there's the Shishu Suraksha Karyakram that was launched in 2011. I think that is, an attempt to provide cashless services to pregnant women across the country. Again, I don't know how well it's doing, how many are actually signing up, but it's supposed to benefit some, double-digit millions of women across the country. And then it offers the entire gamut of, cashless deliveries and diagnostics and drugs and, the rest of it. There's, I think, also some schemes that are there to be able to increase, mortality rates. Maternal and, neonatal mortality, better those rates, make sure that, infants are getting also the kind of care that they weren't getting earlier, especially in the rural areas, because that ends up being a challenge. Again, not sure how well they're doing, Harbinder. I'm not the person who could answer that with great surety. I've not been in core healthcare for the last 3 years, but I do know that they were launched and that there is definitely an active attempt to better this situation for women.
I'm glad at least the government is making an effort. So the intent is there. And obviously the intent is there. Some effort would be made.
Yes.
So, Anika, like I mentioned earlier, that I find that women are usually multitasking in India. So apart from various home-based chores, as well as the work that they do, a lot of women are working now. Do you think this is creating a larger concern on the mental pressure on women? And how do you think we can break this mindset of women expected to multitask while others are not?
You are asking to change a generational mindset of thousands and thousands of years of conditioning in terms of gender conditioning, societal conditioning, ancestral conditioning, media conditioning. So you're starting with it, Harbinder. Well done. We're talking about it. That's a start. I think it's literally small steps. Organizations doing it, hospitals doing it, families doing it. I have a son and a daughter. There's no difference. My son is older, my daughter is younger. There's still no difference. I try and make sure that those differences just don't exist. In neither in my home nor in my organizations, neither my NGO nor the Women's Company. Would I say, and if anything, unfortunately, I'm slightly biased towards women, like I've told you, but I think it's something that is starting to gain attention. I won't say it's starting to change yet. It's starting to gain attention. It's going to mean a lot of work done by women like us. It's going to mean a lot of work done by women like us who start to say no about certain things. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not comfortable doing that. No, why don't you do it? And no, why don't we share the load? How about we do this together? And also women who speak up for ourselves in every way, as in fund me more because I'm a woman and you've not given preference to women all these times. How many of you, Mr. VC, Mr. PE, has funded women founders? Okay. And if you haven't, now's your chance. Mr. Hospital, Mr. Healthcare, how much provision have you made for women in terms of the schemes that you offer? And then even taking up the government on these schemes and, yojanas that they do have, is they started it, but what's the kind of impact that they're making? So there's a huge amount of work that has to be done all across when it comes to women. A lot of it starts with ourselves. And it starts with the sheer belief that we don't believe that we are the equal sex, and until we don't believe that, we'll always expect and be delivered inferior treatment.
I think you brought up a very beautiful aspect that women themselves need to believe that they are equal, if not superior, because you actually hear them saying that, listen, I'm a woman, please consider me for this. So there's that doubt or that element of inferiority that they are within themselves having it,
and then that we project.
Yes,
we almost apologize for being woman because I'm not a son, because I'm not a brother, because I'm not a a male boss, because I'm not a whatever, but I'm so much more, in whatever way that I am. And, my upbringing was different because I was the first girl born in 7 generations in my family. And my dada thought he'd hit the jackpot, okay, literally. And I was treated like that. So I was given a head start, not by the fact that I had lots of, I was born into a rich family or it was nothing like that. It was a mindset, where he always told me, you can do anything. You can do anything that you want to do, and it's as simple as that. So, it's about giving that mindset to our daughters and our sisters and our wives. And there are a lot of men that do that. I've had a lot of men that have supported me on my journey. And, I hope that we as women also support other women as we go forward.
Anika, it's not just India. What I see is that this is a global phenomenon. And the degree at which it is affecting could be very, very different. I mean, I'm just taking a point. In fact, that was not part of the questions that I was, going to ask you. But since it is important for me to understand that, when people have to pick up roles, when it is time for one parent to give up the work or a career to take care of a child at home, the child needs attention, or if there's a situation where one of the two have to give up a job, despite getting lower paid, the man is expected to continue the job and a woman is expected to leave it, right? Why is this parity there? I mean, I'm not even talking of the rural part of the country, and I'm not even talking of India. This is global phenomenon.
It's again conditioning, Harbinder. It's amazing. You've captured it beautifully, because yes, it's not just our country. It's globally. I've lived in 4 continents, and I have friends in all 4. And I see this as a theme all throughout. I wonder, is it because we as women are more self-sacrificing? I mean, we sacrifice more easily. If that's the case, that's worrying, that we're the only ones there to put ourselves on the line. Is it that we're better at raising children and managing the family? I do believe that we're better, but I do believe that you can't have that as a blanket rule. There are many men who are softer and more nurturing than, certain women. And so are we being unfair on men, by assuming that they can't take on that role? Is it that, as women, it's just been expected of us? It's understood that the woman will take the back seat in her career for those years that, the man is, has to go out and work while the family is young and needy. Yes, it is something that's expected, and therefore it's come down centuries. So it's a combination of, it's been expected. It's, what we as women perceive of ourselves in terms of the ability to give up, sacrifice, etc. It's how we've been perceived also as nurturers, and easier in terms of being able to nurture and love and caretake and, raise the birdies in the nest. I think it's all of that. But, like I'd say, it's also, is it nurture? Is it nature? It's a bit of both. My son cooks at home. My daughter does not. Okay. Now, is that his personality? Perhaps. Is that I have also given him the empowerment to believe he's no lesser than anybody, I mean, who's of the female sex, by walking into the kitchen and enjoying making a meal. Why shouldn't he? So, he's actually better with babies than she is, by what I see so far. Okay. So my point is that I don't know, is it a personality thing? Is it an expectation thing? Is it that we really need to change the dialogues of the way that things are done?
So Anika, in a country of 1.3 billion, we have very few psychiatrists, or very few trained, even though we have now counselors and people who are non-medicals taking up the profession, but there's still a very small number. And when you look at women, there are not many women who are forthcoming on their mental health issues, right? So they keep themselves silent. They don't even speak about it. And sometimes they're not even aware that they could be facing issues. I mean, they take it as for granted that that's the way it is. How can we create that awareness among women that they should go speak out? They only in the, I mean, this is just my perception, could be a stereotype, but in my perception, the women always had somebody in the neighborhood who they would connect with, talk with, and then the guidance would usually be that koi baat nahi, time ke saath sab theek ho jayega, but there is no action being taken. Now, this is something where people need to be told. People need to be aware that there's something needs to be done. What do you think must be done to help women empower themselves to go out and seek help?
So first is, an education pointing to the fact that help exists. Okay. So we don't know that it's out there unless we're very aware, and unless we've, been exposed to mental health counselors, people who've been through therapy, etc. Schools, education at the school level, talking about therapy. Like I said, counselors at school really help. Exposure to counselors, constantly, the teachers constantly telling children that you do have this support service at school should you want it. The second is homes. So like I was mentioning, that my children have a therapist number, and they can call up that therapist whenever they want. They don't have to tell me. That's their empowerment, their freedom. And then, they call, and I will settle whatever the bill is. So homes, and making it normal without stigma to seek help, because it's seen as a weakness. It's seen as, breaking a family confidence. It's seen as log kya kahenge agar pata chal jayega, hamari ghar ki baatein bahar nahi nikalni chahiye, that kind of a thing. But so therefore it's an education almost at a base level that none of that is true. So the education at a base level in schools, in colleges, at doctors' clinics, at hospitals, through the journeys of, starting menarche to menopause, at every level in a doctor's clinic or in a hospital, to educate women that, look, we have a counselor here. This is going to be hard on you. Menopause is tough. There are lots of ups and downs. Why don't you see one of our, just go spend 15 minutes with our counselor next door. Let me just introduce you to her. The doctor walks the, patient there and has that conversation. In the rural areas, even if there are videos, short video snippets on breathing, that if there's anxiety or if there's a sense of you feel very ghabrat ho rahi hai, what can you do? There's homeopathic clinics in all rural areas, but they're cheaper medicines than using, prescription drugs. And there are very nice medications to, calm people down. And so are they not, a combination of talks with a homeopathic clinic that can maybe go out, to these rural areas and actually talk to women? So the home, school, college, workplace. Okay. So actually in corporates, etc., having a counselor present on maybe 2 days a week or 2 afternoons a week, or circulating an email by HR to make sure that, hey, you know what, this is our onboarded set of psychiatrists or counselors. Please feel free to call them at any point. We're going to pick up the tab, or we'll pay for half your session. Can it be done? So that, there are lots of things that can be done, Harbinder, but lots of things need to be done. One thing is not going to kick this off. It's going to have to be a multi-pronged attack from many places.
Anika, you brought up the issue of schools, that it needs to begin there. Yeah. But what I've seen is that in the schools, it is only restricted to 2 things. I mean, this is what I have seen. One, once a year, you have a gynecologist who comes and visits a school, gives the menstrual cycle education to girls. And then you have a counselor in school, which is primarily for 2 things. When a child is ADHD or there's a special case, student in the school. Do you think it will help if there is a mandatory counseling session for every child at a certain age to be done in the school, irrespective of whether it's a boy or a girl? Because I think, people are scared, or because of the uncertainty of what happens when you go to a counselor. At least everybody experiences or understands what a counseling session is, where they open up, speak to someone who's not judgmental about you. Do you think that could change the future?
I think that is a brilliant idea. And if we could actually do that, that's fantastic. I was in high school in Canada, some, 25 plus years ago. I don't want to give away my age so openly, but I was, and it was mandatory there. And I remember that each of us in high school had to meet. The minute we hit high school, we had to meet a counselor at some point in that first year, in 9th grade. And I think if we could get something like that going in India, nothing like it, because it gives kids an opportunity to be exposed to it, and if then they have to be there, then they don't feel the stigma of who's going to see me walk into this room, and have this conversation with the counselor and then wonder that there's something wrong with me, and all the other, stigmas that are associated with that.
So, Anika, there's a lot of awareness being created in many unique ways because of internet and the related technologies that is there. Especially mental health and holistic health has taken off like crazy, especially promoted by influencers on Instagram, etc. Yeah. But this is only reaching out to the urban population, right? What do you think? How do you think that the message could be reaching the interiors of this country? Could we have something like influencers in the rural areas rather than healthcare workers or the government reaching out to them where there's a scare of acceptance?
Can you repeat the second part of your question?
Do you think that the message is reaching the interiors of the country where language is a big barrier? And second is that, could an influencer route work in the rural areas as well?
I think an influencer route could work because every person, rural or urban, has a mobile phone. And they may not be on WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram, but they are definitely on YouTube, you know? So I think if we could create, and there are a lot of YouTube influencers with a lot of reach, if, they build up that traction, sure, of course it could. And those messages can reach there. Now gone are the days where, I mean, everybody's got videos, and got access to that basic phone, which can see a YouTube video. So I think it can be done. Of course, language is a barrier from the point of view that if I'm giving a talk in Hindi or in, Punjabi or something, it's not relevant to every, area in India, or it's not, it won't be not relevant, but it won't be able to reach those ears in that same manner. So having, people maybe as part of these schemes, even if the government launched it, where it would be translated into, the different languages, then it would have that much reach. It would have a phenomenal reach. And at least that the information is being disseminated in the manner that you want, and the kind of information that you want is being disseminated.
So Anika, what is your mission that you're working on when it comes to women's health, and how are you going about it?
So first I ran hospitals, which I loved. And then my life took me on another route, which now I am, manufacturing and producing organic and biodegradable feminine hygiene products. So I also look at still every life stage of a woman's life and see where are the need gap areas that I can kind of contribute, which reduce infections, reduce, any kind of exposure to plastic or chemicals or toxin. And I work hard at, at doing that with my team and disseminating that information across. I also, I also have an NGO called Organ India, where we actually look at, in a kind of poetic way, talking about recycling of organs. So when you no longer can use yours, or you have the ability to give, then you can save or enhance lives. And so healthcare is very, very important to me. It's very close to my heart. And my mission is to just make a difference one life at a time, as many as that we can, with ethical practice and trying your best to reach out. Like I said, it's each person can only do what they can do, Harbinder. And we can only together, whether it's you or me, lobby for a larger voice, talking about the same, the same goals with the same intent.
So Anika, you're a single parent. You are multitasking, but you are still very mindful because of your experience with your daughter. You came up with the woman company. You're working on a startup. You're doing an NGO. With so much happening, what is your personal mantra for your own well-being? What is it that you do?
This is where I've changed actually. So I lost my father 16 years back. I lost my mom 3 years back. And after my mom passed away, I have changed the way I do it. So yes, I do have a very busy life, but there are some things I'm supremely selfish about. So my mornings, if you try and talk to me in the morning, I am not pleasant, okay? Because that's focused on my meditation, on my workout, which are my, ways to release my stress and to be able to keep balance. I make sure I eat all my meals on time. So I'm bullish about that. I'm a vegetarian and I'm very, very particular about what I eat. My sleep is precious. So I make sure I sleep at least, 6-7 hours a night. I wish I could get more, but at least that much. I'm, very, very particular about that. And the evenings, my wind down, whether it's a walk or it's playing the piano or it's cooking, which I find very therapeutic. I need my outlets in the morning and my outlets in the evening, and keeping that balance, where I'm just focused on something other than, something almost internally focused, whether it's, meditation or any of the hobbies that I've spoken about, or working out. It's internal, it's so focused that you don't have time to think about, anything else that could be worrying. And I think that break in brain time really helps me. And then there's also certain humility that sets in your 40s, that you can't do it all. So don't even try.
Thank you so much, Anika, for taking out time. Since now I know that you enjoy your personal time in the morning. Next time I'm going to schedule all my interviews in the evening.
No, this is mid-morning, Harbinder. You're safe. You're safe.
But thank you so much for taking our time, Anika. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to more opportunities.
I love our chats. Yeah.
Yes.
Take care. Thank you, Harbinder. Bye.